Okay, hello friends. So back for another quick AWS video. Today we are going to be discussing the VPC. So as many of you may or may not know, VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud, and I just have the documentation pulled up here directly from AWS. So it says VPCs enable you to launch AWS resources into a virtual network that you have defined. So basically, in short, a VPC is basically your data center in the cloud. So this has your subnets, handles all of your IP addressing and your routing, gateways, endpoints, peering connections. So there's a couple different ways to interact with the VPC. Obviously, the first way is just to log into the console, which is where I am here. If you can see that, scroll up. Okay, and then this is our what we call the VPC dashboard. So, and this gives you a high level overview of everything that you have bound to your VPC at this point. So you'll see we have one VPC in our default region, which is US East 1, 3 subnets, 1 route table, 1 gateway, DHCP options, security groups, everything like that is controlled here. So by default, you have one, when you set up your AWS account, you have a default VPC that gets created, and either you could build from here or you can go and create your own VPC, which is what I would probably recommend. And this is just a quick breakdown. So you can do VPC only, or you can do VPC and more. So what does the more look like? So introducing the new VPC experience. So you can do your subnets, your route tables, and then your network connections here. Or this is more of the advanced setting. So if you're just getting your feet wet in the AWS ecosystem, you probably don't want to handle or configure the VPC and more just yet, unless you really understand what you're doing here. So I would just do VPC only. And this is my test account. So this is my personal account, not related to any projects that I'm working on at my employer. So there's really not much here. But what I can do is I can create an additional VPC. So we'll do my VPC 01. Okay. And then it's asking me what is the CIDR block range that I want to use. I'll just use IPv4 and no IPv6 CIDR blocks at this point. And then the next option is tenancy. So what does that mean? So tenancy is you can run instances in your VPC on a single tenant dedicated hardware. Select default to ensure that the instance launched in this VPC use the tenancy attribute requested, the tenancy attribute specified at launch, or if you're creating a VPC for Outpost private connectivity. So select dedicated to ensure that the instances launched in this VPC are run on dedicated tenancy instances. So if I understood that correctly, if we don't select it as a default VPC, it'll just be using dedicated hardware. I mean, it'll be using shared hardware. But if I leave it as a default, it'll use the shared hardware. But if I select dedicated, it's going to use dedicated hardware, and any other thing that we launch under this particular VPC will also use this dedicated tenancy. So I'm going to change this back just to the default. And I just want to hit create VPC. Let's see. Oh, so it's asking me for a CIDR block range. Let's see, 10. to default 10.0.0.0.24. Let's check that. Create VPC. And now you can see that our second VPC has been created. So if I go back in and go to your VPCs, you'll see that I have the default, which is the one below here, the one that's selected now. And then you'll see the one above it is the one I just created, which is this guy, my VPC -01. And you see the CIDR block range that we put in there. And that's pretty much it. If I no longer need this VPC, I can just go to Actions and hit Delete VPC. Okay. And then it's just going to ask me, do I want to confirm that I'm deleting this VPC? So this is basically CYA from AWS. All right, so hit delete. And now my VPC is no longer there. And I just have my default VPC. So we'll get more into that as we progress through our learning. But I did want to put out a quick video about what is a VPC and how it relates to the AWS ecosystem. Obviously, there's no charge for the VPC. That's like one of the core components of AWS. Without the networking component, none of these services can communicate with each other. So this is pretty much step 0 or step 1 in before you spin up any of the resources like your EC2 or your S3 buckets. Once you start allowing access from different machines and nodes, this is where the VPC will come heavily into play at. So, but for now, that's all I have. Thank you for watching.